Hey everybody, it's Dr. Bob. This time I am at Blackwater Draw Archaeological Site here in New Mexico, just outside of Clovis, New Mexico. This is the site where the type artifacts and fossils were found for the Clovis culture. Why is the Clovis culture important for us within a biblical context? Well, first off, it gives us a great example of how type fossils and type artifacts and indicator fossils are used in the uniformitarian idea. What people are not aware of necessarily is that no place on the earth does the geological column, as it's defined by Hutton and Lyell, actually exist. But as these sediment layers are identified, they are assigned ages, and then the fossils that occur within those deposits, and those sedimentary deposits, are the indicator fossils, and any place else you find those in the world, those then are used to date that layer. How does that apply here? Well, prior to the discovery of these artifacts and fossils, it was expected that the mammoths and the large mammals became extinct in the North American continent 30 to 40,000 years ago. It was also expected that man didn't show up here until about 10,000 years ago. And here what we found in the Clovis culture were Clovis points in situ, which means in the same location as these mammoth bones and artifacts, under layers and layers of diatomaceous earth that through these uniformitarian principles were dated to be in the 10 to 15,000 years old, and that creates a problem because they're in there with mammoths. Because the culture fossils are found alongside the type fossils and indicator fossils, and they don't match up. It's created great conflict within the anthropological and archaeological world. There's been some recollection now, so kind of what they did is they moved up the period of the extinction of the mammoths and the great mammals, and they moved back human occupation of North America. But still, as you talk to people and they talk about the Clovis cultures, Folsom cultures and others related, you'll find there's still some discontinuity in the discussions there. What makes the Clovis point so very, very unique for us as believers in biblical history is that if we look at the biblical account after the flood, we would have had a people who came through the flood with all of the technology, knowledge, background information that Noah and his sons carried with them from the pre-flood world. It's our contention that that was actually an advanced culture, not a primitive culture. As they then go into the time period of the Tower of Babel and immediately after, what we see is this separation of the people dispersing and finally doing what God had told them to do as they came off the ark, and that is to go out and to fill the earth. And so now the people begin to spread out. Coincident with that, in the period after the flood, with these warm waters creating these atmospheric conditions that caused a lot of rain and the deposition of ice in the north and southern latitudes of the earth, we have this ice age beginning. Now that would have done a couple of things for us. One, it would have lowered the level of water, which would have made some of these land bridges easier to get across. And also we have to factor into that the people who were the descendants of Noah had as their ancestor a great seafarer, a great boat builder. And so the idea that they would have carried with them technology and skills and a knowledge that the waters could be successfully navigated would have given them great tools for populating the earth as they finally begin to disperse. And so we have peoples coming to the North American continent, not as primitive people, but as people with a lot of technology, once again living in primitive conditions. In particular, the Clovis are unique because the points that are used, that you see, are a very advanced point. In fact, as we move further away and more into the current time periods, what we see is not an advancement in stone working and in point development, but actually a loss of skill. The Clovis points are considered a very, very highly skilled, high technology type of point. So it doesn't fit the typical evolutionary model for human development and for anthropology, because you start with an advanced population and become less advanced over time. So we learn a couple of things from the Clovis, and one is that they carried this higher, more advanced technology with them as they came here, and that their descendants then began to lose some of that technology over time. It fits with what our expectation is, that rather than evolution, that humans, since the fall, have been experiencing devolution. We have been declining as the corruption of the world becomes more and more a part of both our biology and our mentality. We are affected more and more by the world. And so while we build on the technological advances of those who came before us, we are not more capable, we are less capable in many ways. We just simply have greater infrastructure and a greater foundation to build upon. But it doesn't necessarily move us in ways that make us more advanced in our understanding in our relationship with God. Because when we exclude God from the discussion prior to even evaluating the evidence, we'll never come to the correct conclusions. So what we have here with Clovis is a great opportunity for us to recognize, one, the non-primitive nature of man, and two, that this typing and the stratification, the identification of stratification layers and indicator fossils and type fossils is a flawed process and does not lead us to accurate dating or to good information when we're interpreting the evidence around us. The better tool is to accept the Bible as an accurate record and interpret the evidence through that worldview, not through an anti-God science-based evaluation of evidence, but through a Bible-believing science and a Bible-accepting science as we evaluate the evidence. So here we have one more example, great opportunity to say it's okay to believe, and in fact when we question the evidence, when we interpret the evidence based on simply what it shows us, and then interpret it through our biblical worldview, we will come to much more stable, consistent explanations of what the historical record is showing us. So, Dr. Bob, here in Blackwater Draw, I'm talking about the Clovis culture here in Clovis, New Mexico, and encourage you to stay true to the biblical principles, evaluate the evidence through that lens and through that worldview, and remember that it's okay to believe.